Number 5, David Grush. So, if you've been following the topic of UFO disclosure closely, and the odds are good that you are because you're watching this video, you probably know the name David Grush fairly well. Grush is a former intelligence officer with years of dedicated service and involvement in UFO research who's been blowing headlines open with some of his shocking revelations, which, if they're true, would change the fabric of our world. It would change everything as we know it. We'd look at these days right now as the golden days, I think. I lost my train of thought there. Whoops. We'd look at these days as like the days before Pandora's box opened. We're never gonna be able to close that seal again. Grush served on the UAP portfolio for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency as well as the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is a bureau for investigating alien sightings. So Grush has the credibility. But what is he alleging? In a recent interview with News Nation, Grush drops the bomb saying that non-human intelligence has visited Earth and it's recognized and known by major governments, claiming that in 1933 a craft was recovered by Mussolini's forces in Italy and then intercepted by the US in 1944, meaning that the Vatican helped suppress the knowledge of this and the Vatican is aware of non-human intelligence out there. In this same interview, and if you're interested in this stuff, you really should just watch it instead of watching me talk about it, Grush alleges that the US has recovered quite a number of alien crafts over the years, with at least 12 or more sitting in US reserves right now being studied, reverse engineered. Occupied bodies have been recovered as well. Now, fascinatingly, Grush says he wouldn't exclusively call these entities alien, saying they can be extraterrestrial or interdimensional creatures. He doesn't provide too much of a description on what they could look like, and obviously there's no photos, sadly, just that they're out there. He goes on to state that the infamous Roswell incident in New Mexico was absolutely real, and that everything since then has all been a concentrated, prolonged disinformation campaign to get people away from the subject, even going so far as to say the US participates in widespread mass disinformation, leaking true details alongside falsified reports to keep UFO discussion a fringe subject, preventing it from being taken seriously. And hey, if that's the case, US Army, if you want to throw me a couple bucks to spread some rumors and disinformation, my DMs are open. The full disclosure interview is absolutely fascinating stuff, and I highly recommend you go seek it out after this video. But, you know, before you do that, you could always spend a little bit more time on Top 5 Scary, since we've got lots and lots and lots of alien and UFO videos for you to peruse and enjoy. And if that's not your thing, we've got something scary for everybody. Ghosts, goblins, ghouls, Frankensteins, true crimes, you name it. So hit subscribe, make sure you hit that little bell to not miss anything, but do that at the end of this video, okay? I got way more revelations and truths to blow open. Number 4, an Air Force engineer. Now, Grush's forwardness is inspiring others to come forward with their own full disclosure. I mean, if they won't, we have to, right? An anonymous source claiming to be an aerospace engineer added an addendum to Grush's interview on Reddit, claiming that they could corroborate some of his points. Take a listen, and obviously take a huge grain of salt as you're listening to all of this, as it is just someone typing on a computer, but I thought it was fairly interesting. As a current aero engineer for the US Air Force, 26 years and going, I can help you decode at least some of this interview. First, I know that Grush has only limited ability to talk about the subject. He did get clearance to speak to a certain extent, but he must withhold quite a bit in order to avoid very serious law violations. So, expect him to be holding back some things he could say, and this also necessitates rephrasing on-the-fly language he would normally use. Second, the retrieval program he talks about is real and is the most highly classified program in the US. The program is called Zodiac, and this may or may not come out to the public soon. Take this in when viewing the man's speech. He is trying to talk to us about the most highly classified project in the world. People have died, lost careers, lost family to the secret. So to say this is stressful to talk about would be an understatement. Should I be talking about this right now? Should I be talking about this? Am I gonna get the channel shut down? Third, when he shook his head talking about the spacecraft and alien, because we don't really think this is what they are. But this term is in common use publicly and is as close as we can describe the phenomena to general public and be understood. These things, these UAP, are much more than spacecraft. They are trans-medium interdimensional craft to the best of our knowledge. And the alien aspect, this is just the easiest term we have because we don't really know for sure what they are, but this term is close. At present, we consider most of these beings to be advanced biological AI. Ooh. Lastly, I can tell you from my own experience while on duty, these are real. I can tell you this because I was present on 2 occasions. I wasn't read into this program, so I can only tell you I was there on 2 occasions, happenstance, and they're as real as the nose on your face. Well, as you can see on my face, my nose is pretty real, pretty here, all natural, no work done on that thing. So that means this guy's story is real too, and a fascinating story it is. Number 3, Stephen Greer's disclosure. Dr. Stephen Greer is a renowned ufologist and a former physician intent on waking the public up and achieving that full disclosure. Possibly inspired by the surge of whistleblowing in recent months, he held a press conference with several key witnesses and testimonies that he believed would provide adequate disclosure and get the truth out there. Now, the whole thing is available online, and assuming we take all of these things as fact and it's not a very well organized grift, the secrets revealed within are life-changing. Greer claims that many different civilizations of extraterrestrials have all visited Earth, okay? Not just one species or one civilization, but lots. Now, he reports that as of now, no non-human entities have displayed an outward hostility towards humans, which is nice. That's one less thing to worry about. Don't have to worry about the Covenant coming in anytime soon. Like Grush, Greer claims that the US has had access to non-human craft, and they've been studying the tech for breakthroughs in weapons, in cloaking, propulsion, energy technology. Now, this is the really fascinating part, is a claim that one reverse-engineered extraterrestrial technology is pre-programmed life forms, a sort of synthetic artificial life which are mistaken for aliens, described as biosynthetic AI, which sounds very similar to what the aerospace engineer was talking about in the last point. So maybe they share a Google Drive and they're getting ideas from each other, or maybe they're onto something. Another huge bombshell is allegations that within the US government, there's a shadowy clandestine group that was established in the 50s that operates free from the government's wishes, and they conceal alien tech and hoard it from the rest of the world to further their own goals. They're apparently very good at targeting and downing extraterrestrial vehicles and possess the tech and manpower to threaten security. Now, these are bold claims, but in this day and age, it's going pretty difficult to ascertain what's a bold claim and what's the truth actually leaking through the cracks. I mean, everybody's talking about biosynthetic AI aliens. Maybe biosynthetic AI aliens are out there. Number 2, Corporal John Wayant. Now, if y'all remember to the last part of this video, not the previous thing I just talked about, but the last 5 parts I talked about it. Part 1. We spoke of the testimony given by the Marine Michael Herrera, who claims that he saw paramilitary forces that seemed to be American loading weapons and munitions into an octagonal, non-human looking craft while he was deployed in Indonesia in 2009. Now, the story sounded outrageous, kind of like the plot of a video game, but also sound extremely similar to an eyewitness account from another Marine years and years and years earlier in Peru. Now, you take a listen to the statement by Lance Corporal John Wayant. Lance Corporal Wayant had been a Marine since 1994, and in 1997 was deployed to Peru. Alerted to a possible friendly ship that had crashed at 3 a.m., he and a few other Marines drove out to the crash site in Humvees to investigate. After hours of searching through the brush, they found a gash in the land where it seemed as if something super hot had cut through the land, claiming that it looked as if a laser had gone through with surgical precision. And at the peak of the gash was this huge craft, non-human in nature, aerodynamic but organic, looking bumpy, notched, and alive, and dripping an unknown fluid. Most shockingly, he claims that inside the craft, he felt like he could experience something communicating with him telepathically, saying that they meant no harm and were peaceful in nature and needed assistance. Now, he claims shortly after this, helicopters and men in black military uniforms took him away and threatened him into silence, threatening his family and his livelihood if he didn't comply. Now, he sat on this story for years, only speaking out about it years after. It sounds very similar to the story presented by Herrera. Now, do you think this is fact or fiction? The video interview seems very genuine, and the story seems complicated and very detailed for a hoax. Hopefully we know the truth on this, or hey, maybe it's better not knowing. And number 1, footage from the Hudson River. And coming in at the number 1 spot today is going to be some shocking footage captured on an infrared security camera on the Hudson River on a marina. We've talked a lot about shadowy governments, secret retrieved alien crafts, decades-spanning conspiracies, psyops, cover-ups, secret organizations, and I just thought we could all need a breather, you know? Something light, end the video something fluffy and fun, and it's about time I included one clip of a grainy, strange object darting across the sky that we can all argue about or speculate on wildly. It's the most fun part of UFO stuff. The clip is short, and sweet, and you get everything you need. You see a pretty clear view of a marina, and then bam, right in front of your eyes. Seems like somebody hit the FTL drive, is taken off to a new galaxy, right? 12 parsecs away. Like, what else could that be? Now, I always try to play fair with the skepticism. Some commenters aren't convinced that this is proof of mass relay-based travel in starships, with some saying that it's as simple as a security camera bugging out, and if you'll pardon the pun, catching a bug flying close by at a particularly high speed. Leaves a trail because of the longer shutter speed being used by the camera at night. The object appears so brightly because it's illuminated by the infrared LEDs in the camera, which are designed to illuminate objects close to the camera at night, which all sounds very reasonable, but at the same time, now I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've been talking about aliens. Maybe it's because I watched the video slowed down a few times, but it really seems like it's something just blasting off, you know? Blasting off like Team Rocket. The object appears out of nowhere for a few frames, shoots off into the dark, and then vanishes. It doesn't seem like a bug is what I'm trying to get across. But maybe that's just because I want to believe. You know, we're getting closer and closer to it every day. It's only a matter of time now before you log on to YouTube and you see Top 5 Scary uploading top 5 coolest aliens I've talked to personally, and the thumbnail is going to be me shaking hands with one. Look forward in the next couple weeks.
Number 5, ISS UAP. In 2019, 35-year-old Russian astronaut Ivan Wagner was working aboard the ISS as a first-time crew member, where he and fellow Russian Anatoly Ivanishin are working with Chris Cassidy, the American commander of the expedition. NASA didn't mention Wagner's video in a blog update about the mission and hasn't since, which makes this case a little fishy. Wagner was orbiting the Earth aboard the ISS and might have actually captured footage of potential UFOs, or better known now as UAPs, while recording a video of the aurora lights behind the Earth's beautiful curves. He labeled the video "Space Guests" or "How I Filmed the New Time Lapse." Very cryptic. I mean, he is Russian. Wagner wrote in a tweet featuring the video, which shows the aurora australis passing near Antarctica and Australia. He also tweeted, quote, "However, in the video you will see something else, not only the aurora. The footage shows the curved edge of the Earth at night, with the green swirl of the auroras moving across its surface and several star pinpoints visible in the background." He added that the video was shot in a time lapse, so the brief flash of the lights actually lasted for about 52 seconds straight in real time. Yo, I'm the alien guy, so I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, that's a craft. Like, of course it is. NASA didn't follow up. Like, what are they gonna say? Yeah, that's swamp gas, birds, balloons. Cut the feed. Cut the feed. Like, this is nuts. Like, I get how Starlink and satellites are very organized and look like this, but like, come on. Shot from way up there. Wagner did not claim to see the phenomenon as it happened, of course. Good choice. And no one else aboard the ISS has acknowledged it. Also, good choice. Yeah, I bet they haven't. Like, why would you? You know? He also didn't indicate exactly when the footage was captured. Just posted 6:24 a.m. August 19th, 2020. Number 4, the original tapes. Also, dudes, if you like what we do here, just keep creeping you out. You know, Hulk smash that like button. It always helps the channel out. And of course, let me know down below in the comments section what other UAP videos you got for me. You know I love that smoke. Send her over my way. I got some good ones coming up from my vault. What do you think? Are we alone out there, or what? You know my opinion. Especially since I found out the footage our parents and also 650 million people across the globe watched in 1969 was maybe not the original footage. Huh? Yeah, apparently what everyone saw on every television set across the globe wasn't as 4K as it was on NASA's end. A man by the name of Gary George has come across some very, very old tapes that might have been proof of what NASA was seeing. What we saw were a little bit different. Gary George, internship NASA engineer team. He bought surplus government tapes for $218. Discovered originally 3 recordings, labeled Apollo 11 EVA. Auctioned at Sotheby's, first generation on the moonwalk. It's even cleaner than what's been seen before. It's like a live HD stream to NASA. Okay, so hold on. NASA had a clearer copy this whole time? Like, I get it. Maybe they had a bigger budget, you know, but why did it take so long for these clearer tapes to come out? Like, it's 2019. That's a long time after just accidentally stumble across clear moon landing tapes, no? Like, why was NASA content on only letting us see these grainy, old recorded from a static TV videos when they had these HD B-reels of the moon? I'm thinking so that we can't see what's in the background or what's flying around at them. I don't see a lot of stars in that video. I wonder how long it'll take before Robert Bigelow or Tom DeLonge to get their hands on them, huh? Unfiltered, clean moon tapes. That's gonna cost you. I wonder what else is stuffed in an old box in NASA's basement. I guess we'll find out. Number 3, lost in space. During the 60s, the space race was on between the Americans and the Russians. A race to be the first to figure out what it is to put something or someone up above the clouds in a little metal box to just go and explore planets. Yeah. Although today we tend to look back at the space race with the Soviet Union as a competition we were destined to win, it was actually the Soviets that secured many of the early victories. American officials at the time weren't only worried about Soviet prestige winning out, they had very real concerns about Soviet space dominating and providing them an ultimate high ground in the next global conflict. While NASA's efforts were widely publicized, but sometimes the Soviets made it a point to never really announce a space mission until days after it was completed. Apparently this allowed them to maintain control over information sharing, oddly only the missions that went well, and maybe not all those failed tests also. The Giudica Cordiglia brothers from Italy were former amateur radio operators who apparently caught some homemade home audio recordings which allegedly proves the Soviet space race covered up some cosmonauts' deaths in the 1960s during trial and error. Yeah. Yeah, that's horrifying. Apparently she's saying, help, help, I feel hot. Where? Yes, I can. On the left, I see fire. Am I going to crash? Yo, that's horrifying and also really sad. I mean, NASA and the Soviets both launched animals into space that, sorry to say, spoiler alert, never really came home. Dogs, monkeys, lots of weird stuff happened in the early days of NASA. NASA also hasn't issued a statement since the audio recordings have made waves on the internet, but if the two brothers with an antenna and headphones in a basement can pick that up, what's NASA heard and recorded, huh? Number 2, The Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, not just an absolute banger of an album by Pink Floyd, but also the most terrifying and mysterious places in our galaxy. The Dark Side of the Moon. NASA apparently does hear some pretty weird stuff in its time. Since its erection in the late 50s, the engineers, computer whizzes, and astronauts have all seen and heard some pretty weird stuff. Yeah, they sign non-disclosures, people. They can't really talk about anything. Buzz Aldrin is the only one who kind of dances on the line of non-disclosure and who gives a shit. You know what I mean? But he's old. So what exactly did the Apollo 10 astronauts hear when they were on the far side of the moon that NASA can't talk about and still can't? I mean, 1969 was a great time for tunes, right? Just hopefully not alien tunes. Despite what you may have heard, it's true that the Apollo 10 astronauts heard strange sounds behind the moon. They described it as outer space type music. But that's a very simple non-alien explanation for what crew members were hearing, and it's been public knowledge since the 70s. In the audio recordings from the Apollo 10 mission, astronaut Gene Cernan, who was piloting the lunar module, asks John Young, who was piloting the command module, if he hears that whistling sound. Cernan calls it music and says it even sounds outer spacey. Finally, Young says, "We're gonna have to find out about that. Nobody will believe us."
Whistling sound? Yeah.
Woo!
Look at your... Yeah, it sounds like, outer space type music.
Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying. Apparently we were on the other side of the moon for like a whole hour without command being able to hear or communicate to respond. That's terrifying. You wonder why we never hear anything about the other side of the moon, huh? I wonder what's back there. And number 1, Bullseye. NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, spacecraft has just beamed back the first image of its targets. The mini-moon Dimorphos, as well as its rock formation Titanus body it orbits, the asteroid Didymos. Yeah, I kinda knew about this way back when they kept it low, like really low. Kinda just happened out of nowhere. DART is a planetary defense test mission designed to impact the moonlet to alter its trajectory around Didymos, basically to catch you all up to speed here. If you've seen Armageddon, it's kinda where we're getting with this. The DART mission was launched at 10:20 p.m. on November 23rd, 2021, back during the pandemic. I watched this thing go up without any NASA pre-mission statement and I thought, that can't be good. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from the Space Launch Complex 4 at the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, that's a mouthful, launched this puppy up into space to kind of give the moon a little nudge. Yeah. The spacecraft is scheduled to arrive at its target in late September 2022, and according to NASA officials, which as of yesterday are right on schedule. The spacecraft has now captured the first images of its double target asteroid anomaly, which includes the moonlet it will crash into called Dimorphos, spinning around the asteroid called Didymos. Once it's slammed into Dimorphos, NASA will make observations of the asteroid from Earth to discern whether the spacecraft was able to alter the asteroid's trajectory or not. Yeah, basically, if it does, that means the method can be used to avert potentially hazardous asteroids on a collision course with Earth. If it doesn't, well, we gotta call our alien buddies for a ride, you know? If proven effective, this spacecraft design could potentially be scaled up to deflect an Earth-bound asteroid. The spacecraft is still 20 million miles away from the asteroids at the point of this picture, so they appear a little indistinguishable. Looks like a little star. NASA will live stream the impact event later this month, apparently. Hopefully with some 4K live NASA, not this grainy film stuff we're used to seeing. The space agency announced live coverage of the DART impact would begin at 6 p.m. on September 26th. It will air live on NASA TV. Hey, I've seen Armageddon. I know what's up. I'm sorry, AJ. You go take care of my little girl. Gets me every time. It's a great movie, great movie.
Number 5. With the James Webb Telescope, NASA has found a way to be able to peer back into time, literally, and look deeper into the cosmos than ever before. The speed of light is 300,000 kilometers a second, meaning that it takes about 8 minutes for light from the sun to hit Earth, meaning the rays of the sun are not real time, but rather already 8 minutes old when you see it. So using that same thinking, most stars are light years and light years away. And for those at home, a light year is 9.46 trillion kilometers. So really, hop, skip, and a jump away. The James Webb Telescope is able to see so deeply into space that it's able to see light emitted from stars 13.5 billion years ago, after the dawn of the Big Bang. So in a sense, we can travel through time and are able to see light from the advent of the universe. It's not quite the TARDIS hurtling through the galaxy, but it is an unimaginable achievement, and one that will be surpassed sooner than we think. If you're liking what we're doing here at Top 5 Scary, why not toss a little subscribe our way? And I promise the rest of the ones on this list will be time travel. I just wanted to slip one little educational thing in there for you. Number 4. The Chronovisor. One of the most secretive places in the world is undoubtedly the Vatican's archives. It's been said that it's one of the most secure buildings on the planet, so if you're planning an Ocean's 11 kind of deal, think again. We can only speculate what sort of things they have locked away in there, but it has been said that they have technologies we could not believe in there. Like, the Chronovisor. According to French priest and paranormal investigator Francois Brun, the Chronovisor was a device that allowed members of the Vatican to see into the past. Brun claims that the Chronovisor was first built in the 50s by a scientist and priest, Father Pellegrino Maria Ernetti, along with a council of scientists working in secret around the clock. Brun's description of the seemingly magic device was that it was a large cabinet made of unknown metals connected with a series of levers and buttons. Apparently, it could be programmed to see any date in the past. From Brun's accounts, Ernetti used it to see all sorts of wondrous things, from a speech given by Napoleon Bonaparte, watching the crucifixion, and recovering fragments of a lost ancient tragedy play called Thyestes to transcribe to the modern day. Now, obviously, there's going to be some skepticism as to whether or not the Chronovisor exists or ever existed at all. I mean, it's a pretty bold claim. A photo that Ernetti claimed was a real-life photo of the crucifixion later turned out to be nothing more than just an edited wood carving. Unfortunately, we may never know the truth behind the Chronovisor, since the doors to the Vatican's vault are locked very, very, very tightly. Number 3. Gateway Experience. The CIA was fascinated with harnessing psychic ability. This is very well documented, with several projects being released to the public about this sort of thing. To simplify it as much as I possibly can, the project was centered around using a combination of hypnosis and finely tuned audio to create an altered state of consciousness. The thinking was that through binaural beats, the output of the left and right hemispheres of the brain would sync up and make you more psychic good, I guess. The summation from one of the researchers is that a human brain operating normally is kind of like a lamp. But when both hemispheres are in sync, this light turns into a laser, reaching farther and more effective than before. The goal was to expand the human consciousness and have it reach outside the body, being able to astrally project yourself back in time. Test subjects would meditate in a mantra saying, "I am just a physical body, and I deeply desire to expand my consciousness." While listening to this hypnotic audio, putting their body into a sleep state, the subjects were told to visualize time as a wheel with spokes that point to events in their past, and just find a way to transport their consciousness back to those moments. In the early tests, less than 5% of the subjects were able to achieve this, but the team believed that with years of practice they'd be able to harness this ability better. The final stage of the learning and experience was an out-of-body movement, where the subject would be able to lift their consciousness out of the body entirely and harmoniously interact with the environment. However, unfortunately, no one in the project was able to reach this stage just yet. Number 2. In 2019, Reddit user Flard posted a story captioned, "Time travel is not what you think it's like." In the post, the user named Clark details the experience he had in college at Georgia State University when he was approached by someone scouting for a clinical trial dubbed Project BTAOW33. A little disappointing that it doesn't have a super cool name like Project Majestic or Project ZK47 or something, but okay. Going along, the researchers promised to pay for Clark's tuition in exchange for participating in a clinical trial. Clark met with the researchers and was taken to a small nondescript house in the Georgian mountain woods, wherein laid a silver metal house with a ring surrounding it, which the crew insisted the test subjects avoid coming into any contact with. Clark continues and says that there were only 2 other people participating in the trial with him, 2 other students of a similar age, a young man and a young woman. The 3 of them were ushered into the home and introduced to the experiment. The doctors told them they would be launching 3 hours into the future, and the entire house would be transported, and in 3 hours they would reapparate. The doctors reassured them that it would be completely safe, as they'd practiced on rats and dogs, although they didn't know what it would feel like. After a brief explanation, the doctors drove off to their control site to begin the experiment. And here's where it gets weird. Clark claims that outside became dark instantly. And not just dark, like black, like the abyss, like an unmoving void. In the post, he describes it as like being between dreams. He claims from here that the 3 test subjects began to panic, shaking around the room, desperately trying to see something outside or escape this house that they've been locked in. Clark claims that he has no idea how long he was stuck inside that building, saying it could have been anywhere from minutes to hours to even days. One of the subjects attempted to escape, and he said he was lost to the void entirely. So what happened? Well, Clark claims that after an extended period of stasis in this void, they did appear 3 hours later in time, just like they had claimed. And that after being returned home, he'd never heard from the researchers or the project again. Number 1. The Philadelphia experiment was a US military experiment performed sometime around October 1943. The USS Eldridge was the center of these top secret Black Ops level tests. Officially, the project was to prototype advanced cloaking technology, with the intention being able to render an entire warship invisible. Think like what the Predator does, but for a battleship. Well, that would already be unnerving enough. Legend has it that the story runs deeper than that, and that the cloaking, ironically, was a cover for the true reason behind the trial, which was experimenting with time travel. Witnesses of the experiment claim that they saw the USS Eldridge disappear into a cloud of green smoke surrounding the ship, where it then vanished, before reappearing after a few seconds. Reports from the crew are horrifying to say the least, where they claim that they were affected in various disturbing ways. Crew complaining of intense headaches, nausea, some claiming they suffered mental issues after the trial. Others developed mysterious illness. Scariest of all, though, is the claims that some crew members had fused to the ship itself, skin and limbs fused to the bulkhead. One crew member in particular, Al Bielek, claims to have first-hand experience with the Eldritch, where he insists the experiment was a success, and when the Eldritch vanished, it reappeared in the year 2137. Bielek made a litany of claims about his visions of the future, claiming he saw a utopian vision of the future where the world was run on an AI that had eliminated all of the world's problems and conflicts. Officially, the US government has outright denied everything regarding the Philadelphia experiment and has ignored all of Bielek's claims altogether. But of course they would, okay? They're not gonna throw their hands up, lay their cards on the table, and be like, oh yeah, we've got time travel, we've been traveling time since the 40s, we've been experimenting with it ever since, you caught us. No, they're gonna keep it under wraps until they're ready, and they'll probably reveal it about 40 years ago. Number 5, the Roswell Autopsy. Perhaps one of the most famous pieces of lost alien footage is the infamous Roswell Autopsy tape. Maybe you've heard of it. If you're a UFO enthusiast like me, no doubt it's come up before at some point. Roswell was kind of the birthplace of UFO mania, where a lot of the first conspiracy theories and a lot of the public ideas we have about aliens really stem from. If you don't know somehow, the story goes that an alien craft crash landed in Roswell, New Mexico, where it was swiftly apprehended by shadowy government agents looking to pull a curtain over the whole thing. Reverse engineered, studied, down to the pilot of the craft, recovered by FBI scientists. Almost immediately after, hushed whispers and rumors of a recorded alien autopsy set conspiracists and enthusiasts' mind ablaze in equal measures. Recorded footage of an alien body being dissected would be undeniable proof with world-shattering consequences, and would probably make for some pretty good ratings. Well, the Fox network would agree with you, because in 1995, the footage was broadcasted on Fox, presented by legendary thespian and #1 guy to trust in regards to human-alien relations, one Jonathan Frakes. The film broadcast was not the true footage of the autopsy, but rather a high-budget recreation to show for a wider public audience what had happened. The director claims he had seen the original footage from the 1947 autopsy, but couldn't release it. He claims that he spliced shots from the original footage into the faked footage to provide some clarity, but didn't tell us what was real and what wasn't. And he insists that the video wasn't faked, but rather a reconstruction for educational purposes. Now, despite only being a reenactment, the special effects of the footage are remarkable. It does look pretty believable. It was helmed by industry legend Stan Winston, the special effects warlock responsible for bringing the Predator and the aliens alike. The alien body in the footage was filled with sheep guts, chicken entrails, pig knuckles, and raspberry jam to create the illusion of an alien filled to bursting with foreign organs, and probably tasted halfway decent with a little bit of soy sauce. So was the footage ever actually real, or was it all just cooked up to sweep up viewers on a dwindling TV season? The director maintains always that what he saw was real, he just wasn't allowed to show it, and did his best to show us what happened. There's an interesting discussion to be had there, I think. Was he just showing how easy it is to fraud something, manipulate people into believing whatever they see? Who's to say if the true footage ever did come out, we would even believe it? We would probably just dismiss it the exact same way. But if you want to see way more scary footage, real or not, dismissible or provable, we have got loads and loads of that for you to enjoy. So click through, stay a while, and get scared all night long with top 5 scary. I'll be here the whole night and in this building. Number 4, Edgar Mitchell. The thing about most alien sightings is that they don't always come from the most reputable of sources. You know, it's usually a random internet post, maybe a blurry shot from an iPhone kind of thing, posted on Reddit with a caption like, "What is this?" Or, you know, it's somebody who was walking home late at night and saw some lights in the sky and didn't know it was a plane. And while I think we should respect the voice of the people and the common man, it'd be nice if we got someone with a little bit of clout to their name. Well, luckily we've got more than a few astronauts who've seen bizarre things up there and are willing to share their stories. Edgar Mitchell is one such man. He stood on the face of the moon before, he helped save the Apollo 14 mission from becoming a disaster, he's the 6th man to ever walk on the moon, and he is a lifelong defender and believer in aliens and UFOs. Mitchell claims that he's seen things that prove existence of life outside the planet. First and foremost, he is a firm believer of the Roswell conspiracy, and he insists that all those stories are true and that the military has been hiding the truth behind what happened at Roswell for decades, adding on to say that it was buried, and the military propagated a covert movement to discredit everything that had happened at Roswell, to deter people from taking any news about UFOs and flying saucers seriously, dismissing it forever as tinfoil hat stuff. Mitchell claims that NASA believes the public wouldn't be able to handle the truth. Come on, we're ready. We're ready, we're all ready, we're big enough now to know the truth. It's like the tooth fairy, we're grown up, we know where the quarters are coming from, just tell us. And Edgar Mitchell's been trying to just tell us. In 2004, Edgar Mitchell told a Floridan newspaper that he knew there was a secret cabal inside the American government that took in and studied alien corpses, and that after JFK was removed from office, the group did not answer to the president and didn't include the commander-in-chief in their briefings. He was quoted saying, "They all know that UFOs are real. The question is where they are coming from. A shadowy organization existing outside the president's control with insider knowledge on aliens and trying to suppress the public." Did Mr. Mitchell just casually confirm the Men in Black are real? Now, NASA themselves obviously denied all of Mitchell's statements, but obviously they would. What government is going to throw their hands up and admit that they have been slicing up alien bodies on the side? Number 3, the first flying saucer. Now, while the Roswell, New Mexico incident was the UFO sighting that really shot alien sightings into the mainstream public consciousness and kind of defined what alien sightings look like, you know, the idea of little gray or green men and flying saucers, it was obviously far from the first alien sighting ever recorded, just kind of the most popular. But not even a few weeks earlier, there was actually another famous sighting, and one that's thought to be the progenitor for sightings of UFOs being thought of as flying saucers. Kenneth Arnold was an American aviator. Unlike most UFO sightings, Kenneth never changed his story once, never made any kind of surrealist, outrageous claims, and stuck to the same story for the rest of his life. He saw weird saucers in the air he couldn't explain. Well, let's take a listen. It was 1947, June the 24th, weeks before Roswell, which occurred in July 1947. Mr. Arnold was flying his private plane over Washington by Mount Rainier. I've never been to Washington, so you guys gotta forgive me. He was looking for a recently downed transport plane that had a $5,000 bounty the US military was offering in exchange for its finding. As he was approaching the summit, Arnold noticed that he saw 9 blinding flashes of light hovering up above. When looking in closer, they resembled ships but looked like discs. Arnold said that he saw them flying in a bizarre pattern, with each position diagonally together, reporting that it reminded him of the tail of a kite. Arnold was an aviation expert and said that the craft seemed far more advanced than anything human beings were capable of at the time, moving at unbelievable speeds. He landed at a nearby airport and told crew that he saw something bizarre he couldn't rationalize, worried that perhaps it could have been missiles being fired at Washington. Reporters interviewed him and he was pressed for several questions, but no one could corroborate or figure out just exactly what it was he had seen. Arnold was questioned by the Army as well, who took his claims remarkably seriously, as he was a fairly respected and reputable man, and there wasn't really the same culture surrounding aliens and UFOs, and as such, his claim was met with genuine worry. No one ever figured it out, but the story of them being saucers, combined with the saucers seen in New Mexico, led to the public perception of UFOs picturing them as saucers for the better part of 60 years, pretty much to this day. Number 2, the Travis Walton abduction. Now, abduction stories can sometimes be a little much to believe, even for those with the most open minds who want to believe. You know, they all seem kind of the same. It's somebody you maybe can't trust driving home late at night, saw something strange, they woke up in a blinding light room, and they got poked and prodded by little gray men. Well, Travis Walton's story is not dissimilar to that. It's pretty out there even by abduction standards, but it's too juicy to pass up, so pop open those ears. In 1975, Travis Walton was working as a logger and was facing a fairly routine day, 6 other loggers and him driving around in the forest, when they saw something incredibly bright shining at them through the treetops. One of the men claimed it looked like a flattened disc, a saucer of sorts even. Walton stepped out of the bed of the truck to investigate and was struck by some invisible force that knocked him backwards. The rest of the crew panicked and drove away. Huge faux pas, I'll say, leaving your coworker behind after being struck by an alien, but okay, you think you know somebody. When the crew returned, Walton had vanished. Walton awoke and had thought that he'd been taken to a hospital because he'd found himself in a blindingly bright room and could hear people moving around him. But it wasn't until he got a good look at his doctors that he knew something was amiss. 3 feet tall, with brown, quarter-sized pupils, with marshmallow-like skin. Walton freaked out, obviously, as one would probably do, and was swiftly restrained by his captors. He tried to fight them off, but was greeted by a tall creature he said resembled a humanoid, but was masked by an intimidating helmet, a kind of Darth Vader looking thing. The masked creature took Walton and escorted him back into the operating room and put a translucent mask over his face. And Walton drifted out of consciousness again, unsure if anything was real. The next thing he remembers is walking alongside a highway as if nothing had ever happened. He eventually finds his way to a phone and called his brother-in-law, who panically asked what had happened. It turned out that Walton had been gone for 5 days, and he was untraceable. Search parties had formed looking for him, sent dogs and choppers tracked him from the woods, but no one could find any sign of him, as if he'd blinked out of existence and then blinked right back. Travis swore what happened to him was real, a real abduction, and he's maintained that story ever since that fateful week in 1975. Now, if you think this story is fascinating and you're upset that nobody recorded any of it and there wasn't any footage of what Travis described, well, the tragic news is, yeah, it doesn't exist. You can, however, watch a 90s sci-fi movie that is directly based off Travis's case called Fire in the Sky. I've never seen it, but I'm sure it's on Amazon Prime or something. It's got Robert Patrick from Terminator 2. He's in it. He's a good actor. Yeah, check it out. And number 1, the Rendlesham Forest incident. The incident and conspiracy at Roswell, New Mexico is one of the most famous events in UFO culture. This incident is considered England's Roswell, the Rendlesham Forest incident. Few other alien sightings can boast this many government witnesses, memos, and strange proof. Let's paint the scene. It was December 26, 1980. Oh, nice and festive and Christmas themed. Surrounding Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, England was a series of Air Force bases and US Army personnel. 2 of these stationed officers were John Burroughs and Jim Peniston. On this fateful night, the 2 of them were concerned by shining bright lights that were seen flying above the base, worrying that it could perhaps have been a threat or a spy plane scouting out their location. Burroughs said that he thought the lights looked like a beacon summoning people over, and over 40 people on the base all agreed, reporting seeing the lights and sharing their concern. So the 2 men were sent over to Rendlesham Forest to investigate. In their official document, the 2 men claimed that they had seen a strange, shining, triangular object that was pulsing with colored lights. Neither of the men recognized it as an aircraft from any military across the globe. The craft had seemed far too advanced for anything of this world. Black and made out of a smooth, opaque glass. It didn't appear to have any wings or landing gear or even really any methods of propulsion or exhaust. The men describe it as covered in hieroglyphic-like symbols etched onto the hull of the vessel all over. Neither of the men could identify the glyphs as anything they'd seen before. Duh, it's alien stuff. As the craft touched down, down, nearby animals were being driven into a frenzy, and the airmen's equipment started malfunctioning, communications equipment cutting out. The two personnel could no longer call back to the base. Now, not even 2 days later, the Rendlesham UFO was spotted again. 2 days later, the same strange lights were seen hovering above the bases surrounding Rendlesham. This time, the crews came significantly more prepared, waiting and ready for the UFO to make contact. The patrol group had found depressions in the ground, and their Geiger counters started blowing up with noise. And the group had known that they'd come across where the UFO had been, and then, right on time, the patrol saw the same craft flying above overhead, disappearing into the night. Years passed, and we're still no closer to understanding just what occurred with those faithful sightings. And we may never know.
In 5th place today, we have the footage the Pentagon refuses to release from Alaska. Between the dates of February 4th to the 12th of 2023, 4 different unidentified objects were shot down over Alaska, South Carolina, the Yukon, and the Great Lakes. While cockpit audio from F-16 pilots who shot down the UFOs over Lake Huron was released, a spokesman for the Pentagon has confirmed that the footage will not be released in the near future, being quoted directly saying, "I can tell you that there is not currently any images or video footage that we can release. The imagery remains classified, and I have not received any information as to the potential timeline on a change in classification." This refusal is a drastic difference in comparison to the quick release of an Air Force photo of what is believed to have been a Chinese spy balloon that was shot down at the same time over on the East Coast, and footage from when a Russian plane appeared to intentionally collide with a drone last March. Noted UFO researcher John Greenwald requested the footage and photos of the UFO shootdowns be released via a Freedom of Information Act request, with the Pentagon claiming national security exemptions to deny this request. An Air Force official said that the images would reveal cryptology and national security concerns if released. And even the Canadian RCMP are playing coy, having ended their public search for the remains. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that sounds pretty dang suspicious to me. Hey, anyone want to take a random trip to the Yukon just to sightsee? Totally not to recover UFO debris or anything suspicious.
Number 4, the Observatory. In 2007, astronomer Alberto Meyer, living in Busta Arezizo, Italy, and I butchered that pronunciation, made an incredible discovery, almost completely by accident, which is where most scientific progress gets made. He was adjusting the focus of his telescope when he spotted and tracked a UFO as it flew across the surface of the moon. Now, the video shows the portions of the moon that he was focused on in close-up mode while tracking a solid black object as it flew over the surface of the moon. And look, I could just describe what is going on in this video, but I could also let you get your peepers on it and let you decide for yourself. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so here's roughly 24,000 words worth of context. Take yourself a look. Pretty weird, huh? That round black object is tracked as he catches just after it passing the Wallace crater, and yeah, this is how I'm learning that parts of the moon were named. I didn't know there was moon geography. It hovers and hesitates before making a sudden change of path at an exact 45-degree angle. Take your protractor out. The precision and control is what's giving people pause, you know? It seems to move as if it's being controlled, and with such mechanical dominance that it seems like it has to be something that's being intentionally driven, and not just a strange rock floating through the stars, or, I'm gonna be honest, a bug crawling on the lens, which is what I thought it might be. Now, commenters on the video, because this thing went viral when it got posted, pointed out that the object does not decrease in size at all, suggesting that the object isn't close to the moon, and rules out the theory that this is a shadow on the surface of the moon from a large object over Earth. I'm only capable of so much, I'm gonna be honest. The science stuff, that's kind of above my pay grade. But I can confirm and offer my speculation on when videos of UFOs look weird, and that's exactly what's going on here. So is this a UFO? Who is to say?
Alrighty, in our 3rd place position, we have the Guy Hotel memo. It's the most requested document in the FBI's archives, right after the photo of Elvis and Nixon riding with an alien. The file has been checked out roughly 1 million times in the last 2 years alone. So far as KG cover-ups go, this one's fairly out in the open. But that doesn't make it any less invigorating. It's a single page, an unconfirmed report the FBI never even followed up on. The file in question? It's a memo dated back to March of 1950, authored by one Guy Hotel, who served as the director of the FBI field office in Washington, D.C., addressed to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. In the memo, Hotel was relaying a story seen by an Air Force pilot about something bizarre they had seen in New Mexico, right around the time of Roswell fever. The memo describes flying saucers, circular in shape with raised centers, approximately 50 feet in diameter. It goes on to say that inside each saucer was a flight crew, each occupied occupied by 3 bodies of roughly human shape, but only 3 feet tall, and bandaged in a manner similar to the blackout suits used by speed flyers and test pilots. The memo goes on to claim that the crafts were found because an aircraft radar had interfered with the controlling mechanisms of the saucer, and concludes by saying, no further evaluation was ever attempted. It seems like it should be a significantly bigger deal than that, no? No further evaluation? That's fine. Someone in the Air Force claims that they saw a series of flying saucers, piloted by tiny men in shiny spacesuits not even 3 years after the Roswell incident, set New Mexico news stations ablaze. But hey, it's probably nothing. At least there's some comfort in knowing that the government has always behaved like this when it comes to investigating and reporting on possible UAP and UFO sightings. Now, admittedly, there's no footage or photography of the incident to speak of, and it's a bit more government-approved hearsay. Whatever was seen on that day could have been something huge, or it could have been bogus. I suppose we'll never know, but it is worth mentioning that Project Blue Book was launched not even 2 years later, investigating UFO sightings in the Air Force, so that's all I'm gonna say on the subject.
Number 2, the Ryan Graves Report. Lieutenant Ryan Graves is a studied Air Force pilot. If you're a super big UFO enthusiast, you might even recognize the name. He's an FA-18 Super Hornet pilot who has flown the skies for 10 years and has seen countless UFOs in his time flying for the Navy, seeing all manner of things he couldn't explain. He spoke out saying, "These things would be out here all day. Keeping an aircraft in the air requires a significant amount of energy with the speeds we observed, and 12 hours in the air is about 11 hours longer than we'd expect." Now, one particular incident occurred in late 2014, when a Super Hornet pilot nearly crashed into one of these objects alongside Graves. Some of these objects were caught on plane camera, and we have got some of that footage for you here today. The pilot and his wingman were flying in tandem about 100 feet apart over the Atlantic East when something flew between them. Graves said that the object looked like a sphere encasing a cube, you know, regular shape a plane would be. The pilots were concerned because were these things a covert drone program or something suspicious and secretive, government officials would have at least warned them, since they had fighter jets flying around for fear of collision. This was the reason the Navy was concerned that perhaps there was more to investigate with this particular encounter of unexplained aerial phenomenon. What was truly unsettling the pilots, besides the fact that there was almost a huge safety crash error there, some of that's words, right? And that was that these crafts were accelerating to hypersonic speeds, and then they would stop and turn on a dime, which is not really something the human pilots are capable of, even our best and brightest, Sorry Goose and Maverick. So what did the pilots think they were dealing with? Graves spoke out, saying, "We have helicopters that can hover. We have aircraft that can fly at 30,000 feet and right at the surface, but combine all of that into one vehicle of some type with no jet engine, no exhaust plume. So what do we think, my goblins and my ghouls? This does definitely seem like something worth digging into, doesn't it? Definitely seems suspicious, to say the least."
Finally, in first place, we have the 2004 series of spottings. On November 14th of 2004, Lieutenant Alex Dietrich was piloting her FA-18 Super Hornet when she observed an oblong object hovering over the water. It leapt into motion, skimming 500 to 1,000 feet over the waves at around 500 knots, and for those of us Canadian civilians, that's around 925 kilometers per hour. The fighter jet's onboard radar couldn't detect the object, but Alex's weapons system operator in the rear seat, who, her name's not public, witnessed it as well. Dietrich has quoted her recollection as, "We were trying to call out what we are seeing to each other and to make sure everybody else is seeing it. It's moving so erratically and so fast that our voices, our minds, and then our radio calls can't keep up with it." The majority of credible modern-day UFO sightings can be credited to those that work in the Air Force, and it should be noted that military pilots are trained at what they call REAS, short for reconnaissance, and referring more specifically in this case to the art of recognizing aircraft by their shapes, paint schemes, unit insignia, and more. On one of the other Super Hornets that launched behind Alex was Lieutenant Commander Chad Underwood, who was able to capture the object on an infrared camera. It was 40 feet long, round and smooth, and quickly received the nickname Tic Tac. Now, I'll let the footage that the US government has confirmed as authentic and unexplained speak for itself, since I know we have the clip handy. Around this time, starting on November 10th to be exact, Gary Voorhees, a petty officer on the USS Princeton guided missile cruiser, had been reporting apparitions on his radar screens in the same area, triple checking his equipment before he made his report, and being the main technician responsible for the equipment, along with having 6 years of Navy experience at the time. Voorhees described what he was seeing as impossible. In just seconds, signs an object had dropped to the waterline from 60,000 feet, hovered, and then zipped away at high velocity, making right-angle turns that were quoted as being confounding and defying gravity. Calm down, Wicked fans, I know what I said. The objects returned for the next week, with Voorhees quoted as saying, "I was able to see it on the horizon during the night and during the day, and it was definitely a glowing object." Could I tell you for 100% certainty what it was we were tracking? No. Now, footage of this event used to exist, with Gary being able to vividly describe his memories, but has since been completely scrubbed from the internet. Now, where have I heard that before?
Number 5, Las Vegas. I think anybody watching these videos are pretty curious about UFOs, and we'd all want to see a UFO up close and personal, yeah? Well, what if you had one crash in your backyard? For this Las Vegas family, they might have had a close encounter right on their doorstep. No contact UFO, curbside delivery. A 911 call about non-human beings caught the attention of local police when on April 30th around midnight, a police officer's body cam recorded something streaking across the sky. This event was corroborated across California, Nevada, and Utah, according to the American Meteor Society, who probably answers the phone a lot about possible UFOs. And whatever it was that landed in this family's backyard, drone video showed a circular imprint in the dirt. When the family called, they claimed that there was an 8-foot person outside the craft and another inside it, with big eyes and looking at them. The caller described them as being 8 to 10 feet tall, looking like aliens with big eyes and a big mouth. Described them as being shiny and 100% not human. Now, this wasn't just one random crazy caller, as the whole family living there said they saw the same thing. The caller said that they saw a shooting star and now there's something in the backyard. The officer responding said he saw something fall out of the sky too, which is why he was so curious about it. Representatives from Nellis Air Force Base said they weren't involved with this incident at all and suggested contacting the police. Interestingly though, a spokesperson for the Pentagon didn't comment at all in regards to this event. Now, isn't that interesting? And if you're looking for way more footage about UFOs, well, hey, you already know Top 5 Scary is the place to be and then some. We got more UFOs than you could ever watch in a lifetime. So click subscribe, make sure you hit that little bell so you don't miss any of our scary videos from us, but do that at the end of this video, okay? Because I got 4 more pieces of UFO footage and evidence coming up for you right now. Number 4, Indonesia. Now here is an absolutely wild story for you. A Marine veteran is breaking a 14-year silence, claiming now that he and his squad mates saw a UFO while they were deployed in Indonesia in 2009 and were threatened into silence over it. Michael Herrera was a 20-year-old rifleman sent on a Navy humanitarian mission during the 2009 Sumatra earthquake and the tsunami that would devastate the region. He claims that his unit was guarding a supply drop outside the city of Padang, and his 6-man unit stumbled on something they were never meant to see: an octagonal, unknown aerial craft that seemed to be being used by some sort of clandestine government force. The Marine has an unmarked 4-year service record and showed text with a fellow witness who refused to speak out about this incident, worrying that discussing this incident would jeopardize his life. Herrera claimed that while guarding supplies from insurgents, they had weapons drawn on them by unmarked forces who had American accents, who told them off and demanded to know who they were. These unknown soldiers took the weapons from the Marines and took their IDs and began loading ammunition, large weapon cases, and other things from modified Ford F-350s onto a platform beneath a large octagonal craft, which would rise off the ground and shoot away at an incredible speed of up to 4,000 miles per hour. Now, for 14 years, Herrera did not say a word on this incident. It wasn't until the recent wave of UFO sightings and discussions that he felt like it was finally time to come forward about this event. Now, it doesn't really sound like a Marine to lie about something like this, especially not one with an unmarked 4-year service record like that. So what happened? Who were those guys? Officially sanctioned by the US government? Some sort of other organization entirely? The Men in Black? Is it fun to wildly speculate? It is. Number 3, David Grush. David Grush is a former intelligence officer, a US Air Force veteran who has got ties to UAP and UFO development and research, and you're probably going to be hearing this name a lot if you're interested in UFOs and all that stuff, because he's been blowing the whistle on possible UFO activity inside the US, boldly claiming that not only does the American government have proof of extraterrestrial life, but that the American government is storing alien crafts for their own purpose, which kind of makes sense of that last story if you think about it. They might be connected. Now, last week, Grush made headlines when he claimed that the US government has concealed evidence of a non-human craft from Congress. And Grush is trying to make people aware of this story. He claims that it's got an intact or partially intact craft, as well as he's got evidence of deceased agents and officers through crash site retrieval, explaining when you recover something that's landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots, and believe it or not, it's true. Quote, does that mean that they have evidence of alien bodies? Deceased aliens? Now, Grush claims that he never saw any non-human evidence up close and personal, but he knows enough people within the program to confide that it's real, saying he knows several intelligence officers involved in the crash site retrieval program, as well adding that there's a decades-long competition with adversaries to retrieve the materials from crash sites to reverse engineer the crafts for defense advantages. Isn't that so like humans? We got alien technology and the only thing we can do with it is build more warships. Can't do anything fun with it. Anyway, it's an incredible claim, and if this is true, it would be the story of the century, maybe the biggest story in human history. This moment of truth that everyone is looking for and fighting for. This final proof that aliens are totally out there among us and we're working on their crafts. So is it true? Is the truth finally coming out? All we can do is sit on our thumbs and wait and see. Number 2, strange orb. I think this has been kind of a heavy video so far. You know, we've got these big claims of whistleblowers, leaks to the press, shadowy organizations, black ops mercenaries, people being silenced, retrieved crashes. We need at least one footage of something strange, a little black dot going across the sky to just lighten up the mood a little bit, you know? Plus, I really think footage of weird orbs is kind of the bread, butter, the roots of this channel, and I don't want to stray too far from my roots. This following footage that we're about to show you was captured sometime in June 2021 and remained dormant for years, until being posted on the UFO subreddit, which is the most trusted source of UFO information in the human world, I think. When full disclosure happens, it's gonna happen on Reddit before anywhere else. Now, this clip shows a small black spherical orb darting around the sky at that impossible to ascertain distance where you can't make out any features or anything. The object moves erratically. It doesn't seem like it's moving with the wind or being blown, but rather jerked around, like stopping completely and then going in the opposite direction, giving the impression that it's something that's being controlled. Now, whether that means it's being controlled remotely or it's being piloted by something very, very small, I'm not sure, but it's something that's being driven. That much I think. Drones are obviously the most likely possibility, although I would say the object in this clip seems like it's moving just a little bit too fast to be a drone from this planet. We see a lot of these mysterious spheroid objects in UFO clips, and I have to wonder if they're all coming from the same source. Somebody check the manufacturer's logo on it. Now, it bears mentioning with any clip of a weird thing in the sky, very likely could just be a balloon, could also be some sort of camera glitch or artifact, and without any of the context or important key details in this video, like where it came from, who filmed it, and why, it can be hard to tell for certain just what this is. Not much to go on but speculating. So I'll leave it up to you in the comments section. You let me know if you think this is just circumstantial and distracting us from the truth, or if this is another piece of the puzzle. And number 1, recovered crafts. Of course, David Grush isn't the only person claiming the US government has impressive UFO technology hidden away. An unnamed, anonymous whistleblower, probably for the best, claims that a UFO recovered by the US military is so advanced that its technology doesn't even make sense to humans at all, claiming that this craft distorts space-time, claiming that on the inside, it's the size of a football stadium. This story was relayed from the whistleblower to lawyer Daniel Sheehan, who's a lawyer who specializes in aiding UFO whistleblowers. There really is a guy for everything, isn't there? The story goes that the US recovered a craft that was 30 feet wide and embedded in the earth. The crash site recovery crew sent an agent inside the downed craft and discovered, like the TARDIS, it's much bigger on the inside, saying that he was disoriented and nauseous after stepping inside and discovering that the innards of the craft were impossibly large, the size of a football stadium, while the outside was only about 30 feet wide. Now, apparently size isn't the only thing affected by the wondrous craft, with the whistleblower claiming that the agent said he was inside the UFO for a few minutes, while the rest of the unit outside claimed that he was inside for hours. Now, a story this bold would require a great weight of evidence to go with it, and And that's the kicker, because unfortunately we don't have much of anything at all outside of an anonymous unnamed source possibly relating this to a lawyer. There's no dates, no location given, and definitely no photos or footage. So can we rack this up? Is this a believable source, or is this someone trying to jump on the coattails of other whistleblowers and try to drum up a bit of attention? Are all of these stories coming out right now proof that full disclosure is coming up on us, or is this just a carrot on a stick to keep us chasing forever and ever? I'm not sure, but I know the truth is out there, my ghouls and goblins. Number 5, Las Vegas body cam. My dear ghouls, things are heating up in the sky lately, and the whole world is coming down bad with alien fever. If you're a UFO enthusiast, the odds are very good you've heard a thing or two about the recent sighting in Las Vegas. That's kind of building up to be a modern day Roswell with all the conspiracy and cover-up allegations. NASA's planetary defense officer, which, side note, I did not know was a real job, told Motherboard, a branch of Vice News, that a green fireball observed last month was not a UFO, but rather a small meteor less than a meter in size that landed smack dab in somebody's backyard. Now, the Las Vegas police officers who responded to the call say they didn't find any aliens in a manhunt, or alien hunt, I suppose is probably more accurate, but they do hope to find them in the future, citing the city's close proximity to Area 51 as a source of speculation. Now, the problem is that footage went wildly viral over the internet when a police officer's body cam was uploaded. We've got a little bit of this footage for you here today. It's kind of hard to make anything out of it, like most blurry alien footage, but it's fun to let our speculations run wild, and this TikToker seems adamant that you can see an alien over one of the cops' shoulders. Personally, I think it does look a bit just like a light or like a headlight or something, but you let me know what you feel like you see. The case has been captivating, with the callers, the 911 callers, claiming that they saw tall, non-human entities in their backyard with big glowing eyes looking at them. So what do you think, my fair and trusted viewers? Do you think these aliens got lost on the way to Area 51 to meet their friends and crash landed in somebody's backyard? Or was it just a meteor? Or did the aliens come from the meteor and the meteor itself was the UFO? Truly, who is to say? Who is to know? Hopefully we find out soon enough, and when we do, you better believe that I'll be the first to tell you. And if you're looking for way more videos about all things UFO and alien, oh my good gosh, do we have a lot of that on the channel for you to enjoy. Everything from conspiracies, cover-ups to UFO sightings, we've got it. If you're sick of hearing about little green men, we've got all sorts of things on crime, conspiracy, everything scary. It's on Top 5. So hit subscribe, make sure you hit that little bell as well, and don't miss a single thing, but you get to do that at the end of this video for me, okay? Because I got 4 more UFO sightings coming up for you right now. Number 4, the Pentagon. We are at a truly exciting time to be an enthusiast of UFOs and aliens. It feels more so than any other point in human history that the discussion around aliens and UFOs is leaving the fringe sciences and starting to become accepted, commonplace by respectable employed people, not just folks wearing tinfoil. Recently, the Pentagon released a video of a reported UFO zipping around near an Air Force drone and revealed footage to, quote the Pentagon, everyone thought was truly anomalous, which is government speak for we don't know what the fuck this is. At the time, the object appeared to be moving with something propelling it forward, but a later determination would show that it didn't, which baffled and puzzled the analysts, as usually something propels you forward in the air. Now, this hearing was very interesting for a few reasons, but foremost, it allowed us a little bit of insight into how government agencies go about treating UFO sightings. We learned they categorize them first by what they most likely are, starting with the obvious things like planes or balloons, which account for like 99% of all UFO sightings. And then when it's something they truly cannot immediately identify, they prioritize where was it found? How is the object maneuvering? Does it seem like it's being driven? Control? Does it seem as if it has a payload? Does it have something attached to it? The hearing started by saying that the Pentagon currently doesn't believe that they have any definitive proof of extraterrestrial life on Earth, but concluded by saying that we'll be getting another disclosure document coming soon, possibly even as early as July. So we have huge, exciting things on the horizon coming up in July, and I'm not just talking about the Barbie movie. Number 3, Jorge Ortega. Is it just me, or are things getting crazier? Maybe I'm watching more UFO footage as part of my job, but it seems like every day we see more UFO sightings, like they're doubling, tripling over what they used to be. Yeah, admittedly, everybody carries a camera in their back pocket now, but it does seem like more people are checking out the planet. Ever since that streak in February, I feel like it's been an arms race for the coolest UFO footage. While pilot Jorge Ortega captures what some are describing as the best UFO footage ever. forever, but I'll let you be the judge of that. He uploaded the video online, where it was found by an account called The Hood's Finest, where the clip went wildly viral on Instagram. Thank you, The Hood's Finest, one of the most trusted sources of journalism in these dark times. Let's take a look. It's definitely mysterious. That much I can say with complete confidence. It's really hard to tell what that was, but the way it speeds forward without any visible exhaust does make it seem highly suspicious. You can't make any details on that craft at all. Now, Arteaga claims this was the most frightening experience of his life, and it's really not hard to see why. A circular, spherical, strange object flew directly in front of his plane, then whizzed by his window. Whizzed, like, you know what I meant. I shouldn't have used that word. Arteaga and his co-pilot were flying towards Santa Fe when they first noticed the strange object coming towards them. The pilots believed that whatever they saw was non-human in nature, and definitely not a balloon or another aircraft. Arteaga claims that the aircraft was traveling at an incredible speed of 300 kilometers an hour. I don't know how many miles an hour that is for your Americans. You guys are gonna have to calculate that on your own. With the temperature at the time of the flight falling close to 5 degrees Celsius. With all that being said, it seems less likely that it's a bird or a balloon, and possibly something far more mysterious. As always, I love to hear your guys' opinion on stuff like this, so feel free to debate away in the comments if you think you've got an idea or an angle on this that I'm not seeing. We need as many eyes on this as possible. Of course, you can also just, I don't know, tell me something nice about your day. Tell me something that made you smile today. I love hearing about that too. Number 2, Chad Underwood. I think by now, if you're subscribed to the channel, and I hope you are, you've heard a thing or two about the Tic Tac UFOs that the Navy released videos of. In a lot of ways, these videos were kind of one of the first big steps for this recent surge of UFO, UAP stuff being taken kind of seriously, with these baffling videos leaked by the Navy that no one could explain. Although they were taken years and years ago, back in the halcyon days of 2004, the pilot who took the video has rarely spoken out about his experiences at all, for the understandable fear that he'd be lumped in with, quote, the little green men crazies that are out there. Well, I'm one of them, Chad Underwood, and I'm ready to believe you. Oh, Chad Underwood, that's the guy who filmed it. I don't know if I said that before. The story of the Tic Tac UFO began on November 10th, 2004, when radio operator Kevin Day reported seeing something odd and slow flying around the San Diego coast. It was moving approximately 140 miles an hour at a height of nearly 30,000 feet, so definitely not like any bird that I've ever heard of, and probably unlikely to be balloons. Commander David Fravor of the Black Aces identified the 40-foot-long white oblong-esque object hovering and exhibiting no exhaust, propulsion, but seemingly darting itself forward at impossible velocities. It was Chad Underwood's footage that got shared and went viral. Via infrared camera pods mounted on the plane, we get sightings of these mysterious Tic Tacs in action. And I wish I had something different to tell you for the end of this point, something a bit more dramatic and exciting, but nearly a decade later, and we are still absolutely no closer to understanding just what happened here, what's happening in these videos, what these crafts are, but maybe we'll get there soon. Like I said, there's supposed to be a document coming up in July that's going to reveal all sorts of new research and information the Pentagon's been working on, and maybe that will be the big one, or maybe it'll just also be nothing like it usually turns out to be. But who knows? And number 1, California Army Base. We all wonder if military bases are hiding advanced technology, right? Like all of us do that, it's not just me. Like what kind of secrets could be buried underneath Area 51? Wouldn't you want to know? It definitely seems like visitors from other worlds are just a bit curious too, as there was a mass sighting of possible UFOs out in the California desert, right above a military base, one Camp Wilson. Was it a sign of visitors scouting out the area, or technology from within being reverse engineered by the American government? Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp are a pair of ufologists, and they revealed the footage on their podcast, saying that the video and photos were shot all the way back in April 2021, but didn't appear until now, where a series of mysterious lights manifested above the base for 9 minutes, prompting the Marines to launch a significant air and ground response. You know, just in case this turned out to be like an Independence Day kind of sitch. The Marines fired flares at the UFO, and the craft disappeared just before the flares could illuminate what they were. Classic, that's just like every single UFO story, you know, right before the good part. The hosts of the podcast go on to say that there was no media coverage whatsoever of the incident. I mean, I don't really remember anybody talking about this in April 2021, but I also don't remember April 2021, so I'm not a trusted source. But since then, nothing really has come out about it. They got the tip from someone at the base, from a person who was pretty high up, they quote. The tip was that there was more to this story that was being led on. Now, some viewers, some astute alien fans have pointed out a noticeable similarity between this incident and the Phoenix Light event in 1997, where a series of strange lights hovered over the city of Phoenix, witnessed by multiple people in the city, but unknown to everyone and to this day unsolved. So what happened here? Just one more mystery we'll never get an answer to? I'm not sure, but I'll never stop looking. The truth is out there, and I want to believe.